Hi, I'm Jose Lozano. At Choose New Jersey, we work to attract businesses to our state by promoting our talented workforce and world-class infrastructure for companies big and small. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by Atlantic Health System, building healthier communities, Valley Bank, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, New Jersey Resources, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. And by Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities. Promotional support provided by NorthJersey.com and Local IQ, part of the USA Today network. And by BestOfNJ.com, all New Jersey in one place.
Welcome to Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio in beautiful Brick City, New York, New Jersey. Everything you've ever wanted or needed to know about the federal courts, you're about to find out. Our guest is our good friend Jose Linares, former U.S. Federal District Court Chief Judge for how many years?
I was in the federal court for almost 17 years. I was chief judge for the last couple of years that I was there, the last two.
Judge, tell folks what it means. By the way, you are now with McCarter English as a partner.
That's true.
Tell folks what it means. The federal judge, federal court as opposed to state judge, family court. Like, what's the difference?
Well, it's a big difference. The federal court is obviously, it's a federal court. The judges in the federal court are constitutional officers under Article 3 of the Constitution. They are appointed by the President of the United States, or nominated, I should say, by the President of the United States, and approved by the U.S. Senate. And they're lifetime appointments. So it is completely different than the state court system. The nature of the cases they handle is different. There has to be a federal basis for cases to get into federal court, whether it's diversity of citizenship among the people in, that are litigants, whether it is a federal crime that is committed, something involving bringing drugs across state lines.
You've handled some high-profile cases. You've been the judge in some high-profile cases.
I did.
High-profile political corruption cases, and a whole bunch of others. And one of the things that Jose and I have talked about, and I should disclose, we have a friendship off camera, and so some of these issues come up, but let's talk about this. You've often said, you know what? The number of vacancies in the federal court, there were 16. There's supposed to be 16.
17.
17.
So, yeah.
17, and there are 6 vacancies.
Correct.
And it's been said that we actually need 20.
That's right. That's right.
So, okay, someone says, so what does that mean? Big deal. They have a lot of vacancies. How does that impact the citizens of this region?
It is a huge deal. It is a huge deal. First of all, if you think about it, how many people in New Jersey? Over 8 million people, 8.9 million people, whatever it is. There are 17 federal judges, district court judges, active judges that are supposed to handle the litigation for those citizens and others that come into our courts. So, and as you indicated, Washington, based on the number of cases that we have, based on the complexity of the cases that we have a lot of complicated cases in the federal court, has determined that in reality we're shorthanded to begin with, even if we were at full strength of 17. Citizens should care because the ability of judges, and look, Chief Judge Wolfson and the judges that are there now are doing a tremendous job trying to keep up with everything they have on their plate. But it affects the timeliness of the handling of cases.
Justice delayed is?
Justice denied. But that's not just a cliche. If you think about it, cases get dismissed. There's a Speedy Trial Act. If cases don't go to trial within a particular time, you have to let them go. How does that affect the citizens of New Jersey, right? How does it affect the citizens of New Jersey when lawyers are saying to their clients, we shouldn't file lawsuits in federal court in New Jersey because it's going to take too long to get there? This is a serious problem. And
is it an emergency?
It is a judicial crisis. It's beyond an emergency. I am telling you, I was there for 17 years. I saw this coming years ago. I had, as a chief judge, and I know that Judge Wolfson has taken the mantle on that and has continued to go forward, trying to pressure the political people to do the right thing.
Excuse me, Judge, how much Judge Linares, is this in fact political in the sense that you got a Republican president, Donald Trump, you got a Democrats control New Jersey, at least New Jersey's two United States senators are Democrats, Cory Booker and Bob Menendez. What does that have to do with this?
It is 100% political.
How do we know that?
Because that is the only way the vacancies get filled. So therefore, the way the process works, for those that are not familiar with the process in the federal court, first it's a vetting process. You have to get through the White House. The White House has to agree that you're someone that they want to nominate, but that is not done in a vacuum. You have to confer with the senators of the state of New Jersey, right? There is this thing called the blue slip, and generally speaking, there is a tradition where the White House and the senators go back and forth and agree on who the nominations should be coming out of that state. We have a situation here where we have a Republican president. We have two Democratic senators, one of which is running for president, right?
Cory Booker.
Cory Booker.
As we do this program.
Right, as we do this program. So it is almost a perfect, I mean, how much engagement is there going to be between Cory Booker and the president on this issue?
But
I don't know.
If they want to solve it together to help the people of the region?
They should solve it together. And before I could talk about politics when I was a judge, now I am free from those shackles and being able to talk about it. This is ridiculous. They need to get together. At the end of the day, they're there to serve the people of New Jersey, to serve the business people of New Jersey.
Not the political agenda.
Not the political agenda. And look, it doesn't matter. And I bet you if you talk to the judges in the state of New Jersey, if you talk to the Chief Judge Wolfson, whoever you talk in that court, they will say to you, I don't care whether they're independent, Republican, Democrat. Give me some good, talented people and let them fill in because we need help.
What do we need to do, Judge, right now?
I think what we need to do and what the people should do and the lawyers should do, because it's really a lawyer and citizen problem, not necessarily a judge problem. I'm not here to tell you judges are crying because they're working hard. The judges are going to work as hard as they can with the cases they have in front of them.
As hard as they work, but
the line keeps getting longer. The line of the cases awaiting adjudication. And what that happens, that has a trickle-down effect. It has a trickle-down effect on the lawyers that cannot service their clients. The clients get upset with the lawyers. The lawyers then lose clients. Clients start filing lawsuits in other states. Corporations say, well, why am I going to do business in New Jersey? I can't get my case adjudicated in time when I have a problem. How about the criminal world? How about people who are waiting to have their Social Security denials at the administrative level that they get appealed to the federal court? And what's going to happen when these are people who allegedly are completely disabled and awaiting their Social Security to be approved or not approved? I mean, it is a disaster. Bankruptcy appeals go to the federal district court. Why would you want to file a bankruptcy in New Jersey, lawyers would say, if I have to appeal it, I have to go to district court and I have to wait?
Quick question before I let you go. The media, we don't spend a lot of time talking about this. You said it's a crisis. What are we missing?
The media putting pressure on the political people and those who are involved in politics, who have the ear of the senators and the president, to say, look, forget politics. New Jersey needs help. And New Jersey, I bet you, and although I don't have the statistic off the top of my head, I bet you that they are, the number of vacancies percentage-wise is probably the biggest in the country.
In the country.
In the country.
Say if a Democrat said, you know, we'll wait till I have a Democratic president, then we'll have Democratic senators in New Jersey, then we'll have a Democratic president, we'll get the judges we want. What's wrong with that approach?
That approach is because it's being politically driven as opposed to being driven by the service of the people of New Jersey.
That's not doing their job.
And that's not doing their job. And how long are we going to wait for that? And you don't know. You can't handicap the political system.
Of course.
No one can tell you now who's going to be president or not going to be president.
But that's not the job of people in the Senate and in the White House. Their job is to have federal judges in position to have the judicial process work.
Absolutely.
Final question before I let you go. 43 states elect judges on the state level.
Yep.
New Jersey's one of 7 that doesn't. Should we just elect our judges?
Well, first of all, 2 things. Number one, New Jersey state judges are not elected. They run a similar process as in the federal level, except through the governor's office, right? Governor appoints, Senate moves.
State Senate moves. Or the U.S. Senate moves?
No, state Senate.
State Senate. Okay.
I said U.S. if I did.
No, you didn't.
In the federal court, of course, is the president nominates, the U.S. Senate moves. I think that is the right process. I think that electing senators had too many political interests to get involved.
Electing judges is too dangerous?
Absolutely.
Let the people decide.
No. I'm going to tell you why, because it's not, you know how the political process works, Steve. You've been around the block. It doesn't work that way. You have people who raise money for you. You have to raise money then to become a judge. You have to have a political agenda to it. You make friendships. How does that taint your ability to be truly impartial in the administration of justice? Look, we have enough other issues that come into play trying to bias judges, right? Whether, and people always accusing judges of political activism and being,
or bias or whatever.
A Democrat judge or a federal or, a Republican judge or whatever. Being elected just, I think, puts that on steroids.
And people may think that makes sense. Let us decide, but the reality is what you need to do to become a judge or get elected is not the same to actually be a good judge.
Right. You want to have a true independence when you get there, which is really shown in the federal judiciary. If you think about it, you get appointed through that process that I explained, and now you're appointed for life. It doesn't matter who appointed you. My first case was a case, one of my first cases was a case where Governor Corzine was trying to get an injunction against President Bush, who had appointed me like a month earlier.
Several governors
ago in the Port of Dubai debacle. There was a contract that the Bush administration wanted to enter with some company from Dubai, and Corzine was trying to stop it. I didn't feel like I had an allegiance to one side or the other. I was truly independent, and that is,
judicial
the
independence.
Right place to be. Of course, we have the whole issue with the press always, and the great amount of press.
We help a lot, don't we? I'll leave that.
Not always.
By the way, I want to thank retired, former U.S. Federal District Court Chief Judge Jose Linares, who is a partner at
McCarter in English.
I want to thank you for joining us, Jose, on Think Tank and giving us, frankly, an awful lot to think about. Thank you, Judge.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Steve Adubato. Stay tuned. We'll be right back for Think Tank right after this.
To watch more Think Tank with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are honored to welcome Mr. Kevin Richardson, member of the Exonerated Five, and Vanessa Potkin, Director of Post-Conviction Litigation at the Innocence Project. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Kevin, part of the Exonerated Five, back in April 19th, 1989, the Central Park Five. You were one of those young men. Were you 14?
14 years old, correct.
All 14 except one was 16.
Two was 14, myself and Raymond Santana. We were the two youngest. And two were 15, and Corey was the oldest.
So I was telling you before we got on the air here that I was watching a Netflix special. And by the way, the show that people should watch, the series is When They See Us, is a 4-part miniseries on Netflix. Check it out. But I was watching Oprah Winfrey interview you and your brothers, talking about that experience, and it was a powerful one. But I'm going to ask you, what is the most important message for people to understand that you and your colleagues, you and your friends spent a lot of time in jail? Your innocence was taken away, 14, 15, 16 years of age. How many years did you serve?
I served 7 years in prison.
Where?
I started off in the juvenile facility because I was 16 when I actually went into prison. Then I got transferred as an adult to the adult prison at 21. Then I did the last 3 years there. So it was all everywhere, actually.
I want people to understand this. There were a lot of people at the time in '89, including our president, Donald Trump, who was a private citizen at the time. He took out a full-page ad. Newspapers in New York. He called for the death penalty for all 5. I want everyone to understand that in 2002, DNA evidence confirmed that someone else who actually acknowledged that it was him who raped Tricia Miley in 1989 in Central Park, correct?
That's right. A man came forward, Mateus Reyes, and he said that he, started to tell people, I did this crime, I did it alone, and DNA testing was performed and confirmed that his DNA was on multiple items at the crime scene, and he had a history of committing similar crimes all by himself in the area around the time, including a rape that happened just days before in Central Park.
What about the DNA evidence of Kevin and those other young men? Did it match?
So at the time of the crime, the DNA didn't match, and law enforcement knew this, but this just shows the power of confessions, right? These young men were interrogated, ultimately, falsely confessed to the crime.
How much pressure were they under to confess?
Well, these were 14, 15, and 16-year-olds, right? And, what people don't realize is that it's perfectly legal in the United States to lie for the police to lie when they're interrogating a suspect. And so they can make you believe, if you just tell us what we need to know, you can go home. You know, they say, you know, as they did here, you know, your friend is saying that you did it. And if you don't say something now, you know, you're going to go to prison forever. And so they can lie and intimidate, and people come to believe it's in their best interest to just say what they want, what the police want them to say, and end the interrogation, and it'll all sort itself out later. But it doesn't.
Sorry for interrupting. I hate to bring you back there, but I saw you talk to Oprah about this. Do you remember the interrogation? It was 30 years ago. Do you remember it?
Yeah, some things you never forget. You know, I just remember the process. Being 14, not knowing what will happen, not knowing if I will come out of the prison, out of the precinct alive. You know, at that age, you're just concerned about just being home, back with your family, and to be there under 3 days of interrogation without food, without water, without proper attention from your parents. It's something that's very devastating. And not only does, like, adults go through this as well, but just imagine someone that's 14, 15, and 16. It's still horrific. It's still horrific to think about it.
You were charged. There was a court case, and Oprah again asked you when you heard guilty, 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 guilty. What's happening for you?
When I heard guilty, I remember I was charged with 13 counts. After the first count, I started to phase out. You know, felt like I was gonna pass out because I just heard guilty, guilty, one by one, 13 times, and I just thought to myself, like, why is this happening? Like, it was, you know, it was clear that we were not guilty, but at the time, at 14, I didn't understand why it was happening.
Was the prosecutor driving this?
Well, I think it was law enforcement, it was police, it was prosecutors. You know, really the prosecutor has an obligation. You know, there were huge discrepancies in the statements, right, with the known facts of the crime. And anybody who took a step back and said, hey, let's really, you know, suss this out. Let's put this to the test. This isn't making sense here, right? Each person is, you know, giving a statement implicating the other, and they're all conflicting with each other. But there was.
But how were they convicted?
Well, there was a real thirst to solve the crime. And at the end of the day, it's very hard for people to understand that false confessions occur. And so once there's a confession in a case, it all but equates with a guilty verdict, even in the face of exculpatory DNA, right? So it took for the DNA to be matched to the true assailant for them to be ultimately exonerated.
But in the meantime, what was taken away from you?
What was taken away from me is my youth, being able to grow, not knowing what will happen, you know, and when I get older. One goal I always had, I wanted to attend Syracuse University. I was very into that. During that time, I was a Big East guy from New York, you know, so I followed the basketball team, and I always just wanted to go to that school.
Was Derek Coleman the man at the time?
Yes, he was.
I thought so.
Derek Coleman, Billy Owens.
I got it.
It goes on.
I hear you.
So I've been a fan
Jimmy
since
Boeheim
then.
was there at time. He was there forever. But
yes,
go ahead.
he was. You know.
Go ahead.
So, but just things like that, and also the basic things that we don't think about, like missing my prom. I wasn't able to fulfill being a kid. You know, I had to grow up fast in the institution.
One of the things about this documentary, or this miniseries on Netflix that struck me, and I've only watched part of it, and I'll make sure that I watch all of it, but I was listening to you and your colleagues, you and your brothers, and you are brothers.
Yes, we're brothers.
For life.
Yes.
You all had different experiences.
Yes.
Tortured in different ways, suffered in different ways.
Yeah.
What keeps you together?
What keeps us together is that we went through this together, and we started as strangers, and then now we're brothers, because if anybody knows, we know exactly what happened to us. I mean, now the world knows because of the series when they see us, but we have that bond going through that, and to still be here 30 years later, to still be relevant, to still have our life story being untold to the world, is something that's very gratifying.
You said, by the way, I said it was a documentary. It's a mini-series, not a documentary. I'm going to clarify something on that. But you said in that special I saw on Netflix, it's painful, but?
It's painful, but it's very necessary.
Because?
because especially today in this society, people need to be awake, and we need to raise awareness about people that's still being incarcerated that's not guilty. And there's many, the number goes on, there's people that's still innocent. So all we wanted was to have our life story told, and it exceeded what we wanted. And now we just have to keep it alive and keep raising awareness.
Devil's advocate, someone says, you know, these guys got a settlement from the city of New York, $40 million. Yeah, they got to split it between, amongst all of them. There are legal fees, but they got $40 million. Come on, you say.
Who would trade a day of their life to be in a maximum security prison, to be separated from their family, to be, you know, prisons are dehumanizing places.
And knowing you did not do it.
Knowing you didn't do it. That there's no way to ever take away the suffering, the torture. Those psychological scars will always be there.
By the way, stay right there. Corey Wise, one of the 5 of the Exonerated Five, solitary confinement. How long?
For years.
Free.
For years. And, you know, compensation doesn't make people who are wrongfully convicted whole. It's necessary, but you can never undo that experience. You can never, you know, compensate somebody or really give them back everything that they lost.
Who's apologized? Who hasn't? City of New York apologized?
No.
Prosecutor's office?
No.
Police?
No.
Courts?
No.
President Donald Trump?
Definitely not.
What would you say to him if you could talk to him face to face?
You know,
I want to be clear. Donald Trump, you can look it up, this isn't anyone's opinion, took out full-page ads in the tabloids in New York and other papers calling for the death penalty for these 5 young men who ultimately were found not to have committed this crime that someone else did, called for the death penalty. Never apologized. What would you say to him?
You know, at this point, I don't think it's much more, anything he was to really say much to him, just to basically, you see the truth. We would have loved and apologized back then, but now we're moved on with our life, and now we don't even pay attention to, we're trying to.
Some of your colleagues, some of your brothers, at least my interpretation, have not moved on.
No, it's hard. Like I said, each day we strive to. Each day is a process. And that's why I want to go back really quick about the settlement.
40 million.
You know, people have this misconception that we all receive 41 million each or something like that. Now, when you break it up 5 different ways with lawyer fees, family, it doesn't amount to too much. Now, we are definitely able to take care of our family, and I'm happy to do that as a man, to take care of my kids, but that does not take away the time that happened to us. We will easily trade that in. We can't get back those years that we lost, those years that's precious.
Vanessa, what is the message that we should all, in your opinion, take from this, particularly with the work you and your colleagues are doing at the Innocence Project?
Well, we know that wrongful convictions occur. 2,471 people have been proven innocent since 1989. The types of evidence that are routinely used to convict people, including confession evidence, can be extraordinarily unreliable. Just looking at the DNA exonerations alone, we've had 365 throughout the country, and around 30% of those people falsely confessed, right? So made admissions to crimes they were completely innocent of. And so we have to take the information that we know about the criminal justice system, about evidence that's used to convict, and use it to implement change. We're really archaic now in terms of, you know, what we're not in tune with what the social science and, you know, what we know about the types of evidence that are being used to convict people. And we have to just take a step back. You know, we have a system of mass incarceration.
How much of it is racially motivated?
Well, I think,
in your opinion?
I think if you look at the basis of the criminal justice system, it is a system that disproportionately targets and impacts and incarcerates people of color.
Were they targeted? Were these 5 young men targeted?
Well, they were targeted. You know, there's this whole notion of, you know, that they were in the park wilding, and there's no denying that, you know, racism played a huge role in their wrongful conviction and even how they're treated today. You know, people are more outraged. that Linda Fairstein is finally the prosecutor
Tell
of the case.
everyone who Linda Fairstein, did she recently resign?
So she was, on the board of Vassar. She was, she went on to write books, and
She drove this case.
She drove
and she
the
had
case.
the evidence that the DNA did not match, and she never, forget about apologize, unless I'm wrong on this, she never said, hold on, time out, we got the wrong guys.
Never. And after their exoneration, she's never apologized. She's never officially acknowledged their innocence. And
Never.
And she, Vassar recently, asked her to resign from the Board of Trustees. And people are more outraged over this tiny consequence that she's facing today than what happened
Kevin, I'm
to
at 30 seconds. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Exonerated Five.
Message to all of us. Give it to us.
The message is never judge a book by its cover. We were kids that just was raised with our parents, raised in a nice background, but we were judged because the color of our skin, and not by how we are. So I just want to just keep raising awareness to people and see our life story, and now you see us.
On Netflix.
On Netflix.
And they see you now. I want to thank you, Kevin, and most importantly, wish you and your family nothing but good health and a good life. Wish you the best. And Vanessa, thank you for adding perspective as well.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Adubato. Let's continue this conversation. Be sure to let us know what you think about this issue and other topics we should cover on Think Tank. So check me out on Twitter. You know where it is. Most importantly, make sure, particularly on this issue, you think for yourself. Catch you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by Atlantic Health System, Valley Bank, NJIT, New Jersey Resources, New Jersey Sharing Network, Choose New Jersey, and by Kessler Foundation. Promotional support provided by NorthJersey.com and Local IQ, and by BestOfNJ.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Are you ready to take your business to the next level? I'm Jose Lozano, President and CEO of Choose New Jersey, and I invite you to make history with us. From Thomas Edison's light bulb to today's breakthrough in cancer research, New Jersey inspires innovators. We are home to the highest concentration of scientists and engineers and #2 public school system in America. Discover New Jersey's inspiring, inclusive environment for companies of all sizes at choosenewjersey.com. Locate your company in the state of innovation.